Hi, and welcome to Sound Sketchy, where I bring characters to life. I'm Jeffrey. I have a random generator that I use to gain a prompt, and based on that prompt, I'm going to draw a character and then provide a voice for it. And this is the very first episode, and we are going to start things off very strong and very strange with a celebrated, well-rounded. Oh, golly. What's it called? A barambau? A barambau. Hang on. Let me see how this is pronounced. Okay, a barambau. It's an instrument, guys. It's an instrument. I got it. It's a. I had to do some research. This is an instrument that originated in African culture. I'm gonna start drawing and talking. I need to get an image of one of these things. Because it's a very cool, very interesting looking instrument. Oh golly, I gotta come up with. Okay, I have some things to figure out, but we're gonna draw a barambau, and then we're gonna give it a voice. So, celebrated. I'm gonna write this stuff down. Celebrated, well-rounded barambau. Okay, so a barambau is an instrument. As I said, it comes from African culture, and it is deeply tied to capoeira. Now, this capoeira originated as a means to practice self-defense, but in a way that disguised it as a form of dance, but still exists to this day. If you've ever played Tekken or anything and played as Eddie Gordo or Christy Montero, that's capoeira. Very similar to breakdancing as well. A lot of overlap there. And basically, this is I guess you would call it like a saw type string instrument. It's a singular branch from a very pliable wood that has a piece of metal wire tied to it, and there is a place where the musician holds a rock or a pick of sorts braced against the wood, the branch, and the string of the instrument. And to create the sound, you have a wand or a stick, like a drumstick, and you tap the stick against the wire in order to produce the sound. Typically, you would also hold a rattle of sorts, which is like a almost like a woven basket quality rattle. And you would hold that in the same hand that you would hold your drumstick, and that would provide the additional rattle to it. Now, also, you would tie a hollowed-out dried gourd, and you'd have three different types, like three different sizes to get a different sound, but you'd have a hollowed-out dried gourd attached to the stick to provide the resonance. So the sound would come out of the resonance. The gourd here. So, looks kind of like a fishing pole. And I'm just kind of doing a character study right now because, starting off real strong here. Let me get my select tool and move this whole thing over just so that I have a bit of a visual reference here. That's great. Okay. So, with all this in mind, we have our draft. We have an idea of what we want. We know what it is. It's a barambau. And now we have to make it a character. So it's celebrated and well-rounded. So, I know very little. I did like a quick bit of research before diving into this video because I realized I didn't know what a Barenbau was. Um, but essentially, I just got to start drawing and I just got to start making decisions. But we're gonna go a little Banjo Kazooie with this route here. Um, so with character design, um, there's a few things to keep in mind. What characteristics do you want to convey? And if it's celebrated, then I think the language that kind of comes to me is something that um, has put in a lot of work, is well recognized, and celebrated. So, um, first off, I just kind of want to acknowledge um, that makes me think more of circle shapes. So with character design, a lot of you may know this, but just as a quick breakdown, there are three main shapes to use, and each one kind of conveys a different attitude. So or personality traits. So triangles tend to be associated with very clever, very quick characters. Circles tend to be very friendly characters, very soft, lots of curves. So that conveys like a softness. And then you have squares, and that conveys a sense of like solid groundedness, strength, support. And what's really fun is you can kind of combine these shapes. So if you have like a rounded square shape, or like a rounded triangle, then you might wind up with some fun combinations. But for today, a celebrated, well-rounded does make me think of more of a like a square-ish circle shape. So I drew some circles, and I said Banjo Kazooie. I'm gonna go kind of Banjo Kazooie with this, and this is my first video, so I'm gonna be making quicker decisions as time goes on. But for right now, I'm just kind of getting my feet wet and thinking this through. So I kind of want to convey that sort of character through the eyes primarily. So, almost like this thing is wearing glasses, right? So, when it comes to character design, there's really no rules. But I really wanted to challenge myself to make characters out of the items or the objects that came up in this generator. So, there's plenty of decisions that I can make. I can make the eyes off of the fencing pole, off of the stick. I think so. I have two options here, right? Kind of going back to this little reference, I can make the eyes on the front of this object, and the gourd kind of becomes the mouth and the nose. And I actually really like that idea. So I think that that's the route I'm going to go. Yeah, and I really want to give this guy like a Poindexter, like very sophisticated, like sharp guy. I kind of think like Lampy from Brave Little Toaster. Boy, I'm just throwing out all sorts of references, aren't I? And let's see. So like this will be his mouth slash nose slash. Oops, a little thick there. And I think because of the nature of his eyes, he can look kind of intense at times, which I think for something that was born out of a need to practice self-defense in spite of, existing under a oppressive regime, the need to find a way to defend oneself and to keep up one's physical fitness and martial arts. I think that having a character that can convey both strength and compassion is really compelling to me. So if we're thinking about character voices, and now I want to be cognizant that this is a very culturally rich and diverse instrument. It has a lot of distinct culture, of which I do not share. So, acknowledging that, do I want to give him eyebrows? So here's a few things. I could either give them eyelids, and that I kind of like that look. Maybe he's just like a little tired of it all. I gotta give him some nice eyelashes too. Maybe. How does he look with or without? I kind of like without eyelashes. Okay, so all of a sudden we have like Squidward as an instrument, right? Um, Now here's another possible trick. Is a tricky bit. We'll give him a couple of like bands of color along here as well, just to give him just a little more flair and personality. I think decorating the branch is pretty common, and I think I'm gonna do the same here. Kind of dress him up a little bit, as I feel like this would be the guy who would absolutely care about putting on a performance, and he would totally hold anybody else accountable. He really wants to do the best job that he can. Anyway, I'm getting off track. So as I was saying, I don't share this culture. This the culture in which the Baron Bao originated is not one that I share or even am particularly knowledgeable about. So I'm not going to attempt to do any kind of accent, because I'm also not really too good at any kind of Brazilian accents. That is not an area of which I would foray down as a voice actor. And it's also not one I would really be considered, and I should not be considered for any of those kinds of parts. But so I'm not going to attempt to do that, and I'm just going to throw that out there as a heads up, because the voice I come up with is going to emphasize this character more so than it is going to reflect that culture or that background. Let me make his mouth a little more. He's kind of got a bellflower thing going on, or like a weeping bell, you know. God, I love those eyes so much. Okay, so now here's one other thing that I think needs to get figured out, and that's going to be the rattle and the wand. And so he's an interesting guy. He's celebrated and he's well rounded. So I don't know how. Other than like maybe it's an earring or some kind of additional appliance. Here, let me make sure I don't. I'm gonna make life a little easier on myself here. There we go. Okay, so here's our wand, so to speak. Yeah. Okay, I like that. So that gives him kind of a well-balanced sort of appearance. And then for a little extra flair, we are going to have the rattle hanging off of this. Maybe even a little bit closer, actually. I think what I want is for this to look like an earring of sorts. He's the guy that takes a lot of responsibility, and he's really hard on himself, but he's celebrated and well-rounded. So I think he's not so uptight. I think he still has his own flair and his own vibe, you know? So I like that a lot. Let me get... Yes! Okay, I'm just referencing a little photo here to help me out. So I can get the woven look down pretty well. Now this is just kind of a cartoon, so I'm not focusing super much on realism so much as the vibe to come across. Great. So this is my guy. I really like this. I really like this a lot. So I'm gonna need a name for him. He's celebrated and well-rounded. I'll come up with a name later. But golly, he does now a berimbau. What's really fun about an instrument too, or any kind of object, is that you can use the sound that it makes naturally as inspiration. So, for example, if you're doing something like a bull or a big cow-like animal, you can use the sounds that it makes naturally, like a moo sound, and incorporate that into a voice that you come up for it. So, you can really emphasize the weight, the heft, the sheer size of this animal. So, if it were a cow, you could mosey on over to a nice deep voice and maybe even give it a southern twang. Now, southern twang is something that I am more familiar with, have actually practiced in, and is much more culturally close to something that is appropriate for me to do. So, oh gosh, there are kids playing outside. I'm sure that's getting picked up on the mic. So, with the berimbau, it's got a twangy, if you've ever heard, so it's a stringed instrument, but you play it like a percussive instrument. Like, you tap against the wire. It's not like a saw. Like, it's not like a rousing bow, like a violin or a fiddle. You tap the stick against the wire. So, with tapping, percussive. So this guy would speak in very short, percussive statements. Like more clipped sentences. He would be kind of more to the point. And there's, how do I describe the sound of the berimbau? Like, it has a resonance and it has like a little warble. So if I was trying to replicate a character that sounded like this or was inspired by this, he might be a bit neurotic. So when he talks, it's very quick and brief and maybe kind of goes down that route. And don't you ask me to do it again. I already did it and I did it perfectly. And I've got it all down. I know what I'm doing. Where were you? Where were you? So, so now I'm just playing around, but I like where this is going. I like that he's got like his little flair here. And this is my guy. So let me clean this up a little bit more. Kind of want this to look more like an earring, and not just like disappear into the rest of the gourd. Gordon! His name is Gordon. I love a good pun. And I'm so sorry if you don't. This may not be a safe space for you if you are pun phobic. But anyway, Gordon. Boy, what a name that just carries a lot of self-importance and authority, and to me anyway. I like Gordon a lot, so I'm just going to clean this up here a little bit. And Gordon here is going to carry us through the next piece, and he's going to do so with all the grace and now let's see. Yeah, I like him. I'm gonna put a little circles in his squarish eyes, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I do want a side of him that is understanding, a little more sensitive. It makes him look a little cuter. See, circles, cute, and just gives him a little bit more. So maybe he's really hard on everybody else, but it kind of comes from a desire of wanting everybody to do well. So, he's got a lot of responsibility. He has a lot of weight and importance, both, self-importance and actual importance. So some things that he might say would be like, oh gosh, I slept in, everybody's relying on me, oh gosh, I have to get there right away, excuse me, do you know when the next bus is going to be coming along? I am late for a gig. Okay, everybody's here. Um, so that's when he's maybe panicked. Gee, should I keep drawing? I don't know. I'm gonna keep going off of maybe this illustration over here. I don't think I'm gonna keep drawing. I think I've got what I've wanted out of this character, out of Gordon, and yeah. So there's that. Um, and I think that might do it for this first video. If you like this, please go ahead and like. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Ring that bell. All that good stuff. If you like this and you want to see me do more, of course, leave a comment below. And thanks. I plan on doing a lot more of these. I have a huge generator full of these options. So this is just starting off. So it's in its fledgling stage. And I'm just trying stuff and seeing what sticks. So now is the time to let your voice be heard and help me frame what this channel could be. And hopefully, if you're a voice actor, this helps you gain a little inspiration as to how to approach a character. And if you're an illustrator or a character designer, hopefully this also illuminates some fresh ideas in your mind. Yeah, that's Gordon. And, ooh, I haven't decided on a sign-off yet. Boy, stay sketchy? Don't know if I like that. That sounds awful sketchy. Signing off. Sounding off? I don't know. I'll keep trying some stuff. I'll keep trying some stuff out. If anybody, bonus question, if anybody has any good ideas for a sign off, let me know. But for now, I guess, sounds sketchy, signing off.